कंठस्थानां स्वयं व्यक्तिरूपा सभायै नमः। तत्र सभायां समुपस्थितः श्री वेंकटेश्वर वैदिक विश्वविद्यालयस्य कुलपतयः नानाशास्त्रविशारदाः यशस्विनः कुलपतयः एवं कार्यनिर्वहणे अनवरतं बद्धश्रद्धाः गुरवः आचार्याः राणी सदाशिवमूर्तिवर्याः एवं वेदिकायां समुपस्थिताः न्याय विशिष्टाद्वैत वेदांत एवं दिव्य प्रबंध इत्यादि शास्त्रेषु कृतभूरिपरिश्रमाः तेपि मम गुरवः एव विश्वविद्यालये रघुवंशं पाठितवन्तः आचार्याः सुहृदाः एवं तादृशाः प्रोफेसर सी रंगनाथन वर्याः एवं मंचोपरि विराजमानाः मम मित्रमणयः राजेन्द्र सावंत वर्याः एवं पुरतः धनपाठिनः वंशीकृष्ण धनपाठिन वर्याः समुपस्थिताः एवं अन्ये च ये अत्र समवेताः सन्ति तान् सर्वानपि प्रणिपत्य यथामति सावकाशं विवक्षित विषये न्यायशास्त्रदृष्ट्या आधुनिक वैज्ञानिक अंशानां समालोचनम् इति शीर्षकम् अधिकृत्य किञ्चित् वक्तुमीहि। तत्र उपोद्घातरूपेण केवलम् अंशत्रयं कथयामि, ततः परं साक्षात् विषये प्रविशामि। अङ्गीभूताश्चत्वारो वेदाः शिक्षादीनि षडङ्गानि पुराण न्याय मीमांसा धर्मशास्त्र रूपाणि चत्वारि उपाङ्गानि च आहत्य विद्यास्थानानि चतुर्दशतया पर्यगणयन्तेति याज्ञवल्क्यस्य दिग्भ्यः अवगम्यते। तत्र प्रधानभूतानां चतुर्णां वेदानाम् अर्थ अवगम उपायतैक अङ्गानाम् उपाङ्गानां च प्रवृत्तिः इत्यपि ब्रूमः। तत्र षण्णाम् अङ्गानां मध्ये आद्यानि त्रीणि प्राधान्येन वेदाक्षर आनुभूति संरक्षणार्थं प्रावर्तन्त। तथा हि एकैकस्यापि अक्षरस्य स्वर मात्रा स्थानादिकं विविध्य प्रतिपादयितुं प्रवृत्ता शिक्षा। प्रकृति प्रत्यय विवेचन पुरस्सरं पदानां निष्पादने व्याकरणं व्याप्रियत। मंत्राः येषु वृत्तेषु निबद्धाः तेषां वृत्तानां निरूपणार्थं छन्दः छात्रः प्रववृत्ते इति निरुक्तं पदानाम् अर्थविशेष निर्धारणाय उपवृत्तम्। अनुष्ठान काल विशेष रूपार्थ निर्णयाय ज्योतिषं प्रावर्तत। कर्मणाम् अनुष्ठान क्रमबोधने कल्पः कल्पते। एवं इमानि षडङ्गानि भगवतः वेदस्य पद अक्षरादीनाम् अर्थतः स्वरूपतश्च विपर्योगो यथा न भवेत् तथा परिरक्षणार्थं प्राक्तनैः महद्भिः अवातार्य एतावता अङ्गानां सहकारेणापि अर्थवादबहुलस्य अतिगम्भीरस्य वेदस्य अर्थं यथावदल्पज्ञम् अल्पज्ञः न निश्चेतुं प्रभवतीति पर्यालोच्य अनुष्ठातव्यान् वेदनिगूढान् धर्मान् प्रकाशयितुम् अवतारितं धर्मशास्त्रम्। वेदस्तावत् प्रायः सर्वत्र किञ्चित् कर्म कर्तव्यत्वेन उपदिश्य तत्र सन्तमसन्तं वा कञ्चन हेतुं प्रतिपादयति। यथा शूर्पेण जुहोति तेन ह्यन्नं क्रियते इत्यादि तादृशस्य वेदभागस्य अर्थवादैः संज्ञा। प्राधान्येन तस्मिन् अर्थवादभागे निगूढान् अर्थान् सुहृदुपदेशक्रमेण निरूपयितुं पुराणानि प्रादुरभूवन्। एवं रीत्या वेदप्रामाण्ये परम्परया रक्ष्यमाणे तत्प्रामाण्यम् आक्षिपताम् अवैदिकानां समुचितं प्रति समाधानान्तरा वेदप्रामाण्यं सुस्थिरं न स्यादिति पर्यालोच्य प्राञ्चः प्रमाणविवेचनार्थं न्यायविस्तराख्यं शास्त्रं प्रावीयन्तम्। तत्र कदाचित् एवं संशयः भवति, न्यायविस्तरस्य उपाङ्गे कथम् अन्तर्भावः इति एकवंशं कृत्वा अनन्तरं विषये प्रविशामः। शिक्षा व्याकरणं छन्दो निरुक्तं ज्योतिषं तथा कल्पश्चेति षडङ्गानि वेदस्याधुरीषिणः इति षडङ्गमेके आपस्तम्भसूत्रे वर्तते इति ब्राह्मणेन निष्कारणः षडङ्गो वेदो अध्येयः ज्ञेयश्च इति च शिक्षादिषु षट्सु अङ्गम् इति शब्दस्य प्रयोगः उपलभ्यते। उपाङ्गम् इति शब्दस्तु यद्यपि पुराण न्यायमीमांसा धर्मशास्त्रेषु न प्रयुज्यते प्राक्तनग्रन्थेषु तथापि अंगानां षट्त्वकीर्तनेन एतेषाम् अङ्गत्वे व्यावर्तिते। अंगिभूतेभ्यः वेदेभ्यः पृथक् निर्देशेन अंगित्वे च व्युदस्ते अर्थात् उपाङ्गत्वम् येषां सिद्ध्यतीति उपाङ्गपदेन पुराणादीनि चत्वारि विद्यास्थानानि केचित् व्यपदिशन्ति। अतएव विश्वनाथपञ्चाननः न्यायसूत्रवृत्तौ मीमांसा न्यायतर्काश्च उपाङ्गः परिकीर्तितः इति पुराणवचनम् उदाजहार। तत्र न्यायविस्तरस्य विद्यास्थानेषु स्थानं सर्वेपि ज्ञायते एव। तत्र न्यायभाष्यकाराः सेयम् आन्वीक्षिकी प्रमाणादिभिः पदार्थैः विभज्यमाना प्रतीक सर्वविद्यानाम् उपाय सर्वकर्मणाम् आश्रय सर्वकर्मणां विद्योद्देशे प्रकीर्तिता इति न्यायविस्तरस्य उपयोगप्रकारः। एतच्छास्त्रव्युत्पादितानि प्रमाणादीनि उपजीव्यैव इतराणि विद्यास्थानानि प्रवर्तन्ते। अतः विद्यास्थानानां सर्वविद्यानां न्यायविस्तरः प्रतीतो भवति। इतरासां विद्यानां यानि कर्माणि प्रतिपाद्यानि अग्निहोत्रादीनि तेषां प्रमितौ न्यायशास्त्रम् उपायः। एतच्छास्त्रव्युत्पादित तर्कपरिशोधित प्रमाणप्रकाशितानि धर्माणि इतरा विद्याः प्रतिपादयन्ति। एवं सर्वधर्मणाम् आश्रयः धर्मद्वारेण विद्यानाम् उपकारकैः अर्थशास्त्रे विद्योद्देशनामके प्रकरणे परिकीर्तिते इत्यर्थः। एतच्छास्त्रप्रतिपादित षोडश पदार्थान् सर्वाः अपि विद्याः उपजीवन्ति। अतः सर्वविद्यानां प्रतीकवत् प्रकाशाधायकम् इदं शास्त्रमिति भाष्यकृताम् आशयः वर्तते। सम्प्रति सर्वेपि अत्र बहुशः भूरिशः आङ्ग्लभाषायाम् अत्र एव तत्र व्याख्यानं वर्तते। कश्चन प्रयासः मयापि कृतः वर्तते। तदनुसारम् अत्र किञ्चित् अवश्यं तद्धिया एव तत्र आङ्ग्ले मया कश्चन प्रयासः कृतः वर्तते। So kindly move on to the next slide. So Nyaya Shastra, which is widely regarded or said as the Indian school of logic, offers a surprisingly effective toolkit for logical reasoning in today's world. How the question arises. I have identified 4 parameters for it, out of which first one is identifying valid knowledge. See, Nyaya Shastra basically emphasizes on 4 reliable ways of gaining knowledge, which are of course pramanas. They are perception, pratyaksha, inference, anumana, comparison, which is upamana or analogy, and then we have got the verbal testimony, which is shabda pramana. In our information age, overloaded with conflicting data, this focus on reliable sources is crucial. Hence, we can be more discerning about online content by evaluating its source and using logic to assess its claims. For example, this is the main thing which has been going on. Now, if we open up, if we are going to visit any new place, certainly what we will go to Google and then start reviewing about it. Not only that one, we have got so many portals nowadays that if we are going to buy anything through Amazon or any other portal, so what we will do, we will review so and so product, how is it and what he has, anybody has, how they have reviewed it. Then, for example, reading a restaurant review that says this place is awful, the food was rough and the service is terrible. Immediately, then we can apply our Nyaya Shastra's pramanas. Is this one person's perception or are there many similar reviews? then after corroborating these evidences, we can come to a conclusion. So this is one of the important traits of Nyaya Shastra, which is identifying valid knowledge. Number two is, fallacy detection. That is, see, usually whenever anybody studies Nyaya, they say, Vedabhasas are very difficult to understand. Vedabhasas are nothing but the theory of fallacies. Okay. But it plays a very crucial, if we have a good sound knowledge of these Vedabhasas, we can solve many issues here. I will just take an example here. See, Nyaya Shastra identifies 5 types of fallacious reasoning, Vedabhasas, that can trip us down. This includes arguments based on faulty cause and effect, irrelevant comparisons, and oversimplification. By being aware of these pitfalls, we can better evaluate arguments we encounter in everything from news articles to social media debates. Nowadays, it's very difficult to listen to any news channel. Why means everybody, they would have a proximity with some other party, X party or Y party. So it's very difficult to nowadays listen to the news or even read the news articles. And when we go to the social media portal, what happens? These trolls are there. They work very extensively. So when it comes to the social media claims, what we can do is that encountering a social media post claiming a new technology can cure cancer, somebody might write it. So here what we can do is that you can use Vedabhasas to be skeptical. Has this claim been verified by credible sources or reliable pramanas we can take? Or does this logic rely on oversimplification or fallacies? Wherein we can say, for example, we have given the Bada, Yasya Sadhya Bhava Sadhakam, Hedvantaram Pramanantarena Nishchitaha Sahabadhita, Shabda, Gunaha, Kritakatva, Iti Kathayati Chet. दोषः उदाहरणे अन्ते न गच्छामि एवम् उपरि अवगमनार्थम् उदाहरणार्थम् एकमस्ति. And then one of the most another third point is structured debate. The Nyaya Shastra has a well-defined method for structured debate. This method emphasizes clear definitions, presentation of evidence, and identifying the core point of contention. These skills are valuable in any situation that requires critical thinking and clear communication, starting from academic discussions to professional meetings. For example, if we take a business presentation, preparing for a business presentation, Nyaya Shastra's structured debate techniques can help you clearly define your proposal, present evidence to support it, and anticipate potential counter arguments. We say the Parathan Mana is there, exactly precisely. So, in the Avayava text, what is the Parathan Mana? He says that, see, we have a structure, a person is there, who says that Parvataha Bandhima. Other person says Parvataha Navandhima. Madhyasthaya Vartate, Tasya Anukshanam Samshayah Jayate. Voho kim Parvate Bandhir asti va, Parvate Bandhir nasti va iti Samshayah agacchati. Madhyasthasya. Ataha Madhyasthasya यहाँ संशयः आगतः तस्य संशयस्य निवृत्तिरूप प्रयोजनं यस्मात् अनुमानात् भवति तदनुमानं परार्थानुमानम् अतएव उच्यते परार्थं किम् इत्युक्तौ मध्यस्थस्य संशयनिवृत्तिरूप प्रयोजनरूपम् अनुमानं परार्थानुमानम् इति तत्र प्रतिज्ञा हेतु उदाहरण उपनय निगमनानि स्वीकृतानि तान् स्वीकृत्यापि अस्माभिः कथम उपपादयितुं शक्यते तदपि अत्र उपयोक्तुं शक्यते इति अभिप्रायः. Eventually, in conclusion, what we can say is that by incorporating these aspects of Nyaya Shastra, we can become more discerning consumers of information, avoid logical fallacies, and engage in clear, reasoned communication in today's world. One more thing, other trait of Nyaya Shastra is Nyaya Shastra can be quite effective in argumentative theory, offering tools for building strong arguments and identifying weaknesses in opposing ones. Here are the following. Strengths for argument construction. For an argument, what are the things foundation is being emphasized through pramanas. Then we need a structured approach. The system provides a framework for constructing arguments here. Then we have got the third point is fallacy avoidance. So, Hedva Bhasha shouldn't be there. So, what are all the strengths of evaluating arguments means? One has to identify the flaws which are present in the other person. So, Nyaya Shastra equips you to dissect opposing arguments, pinpoint fallacies they may rely on, and expose inconsistencies in their logic. Number 2 is examining evidence, and number 3 is clarity and precision. I would just give an example for each and every one. Sir, when it comes to, for example, when it comes to an environmental debate, what happens is that somebody might argue for stricter pollution regulations. Then you can use Pramana by citing data from credible scientific studies, which is perception, and inferring the negative health impacts, which is Anumana, inference, identifying a fallacious counter argument like regulations hurt businesses too much. So it's an appeal to emotion. In that way, it allows you to address it logically. Number 2, in legal cases, the lawyer pleading a case can utilize Nyaya Shastra by meticulously defining legal terms, presenting witness testimonies as verbal testimony, and drawing logical inferences to connect them to the defendant's guilt. They can also use Nyaya Shastra to identify fallacies in the opposing counsel's arguments, such as arguing by association. Third one is ethical debate. Engaging in a debate about artificial intelligence, Nyaya Shastra can help structure your argument about potential risks. You can cite case studies of past technological mishaps, comparison as pramana, and infer potential dangers of artificial intelligence. When your opponent argues saying AI will create more jobs, then you can point out the complexities of the issue using Nyaya Shastra's focus on clear definitions. So, this is one more thing. Now, I would like to relate few things with physics actually. How there are some parallels which we can draw between physics and Nyaya Shastra. So, let me go to the next slide. Yeah. If we are talking about dravyas, then a lot of similarities have been noted between Kanada's work and the scientific era that we are living in today. In this section, we will examine few dravyas. For example, one sutra of Kanada gives a major correlation between the modern science and Vaisheshika Sutra, which basically talks about the order. I mean smell. Vyavasthita Prithvivyam Gandha. It is a beautiful example which we are reading now. The one which I am going to explain now is related to what has happened today exactly. In this particular sutra, Kanada places an emphasis on the quality of aroma or fragrance that is possessed by the Prithvi. He provides a compelling case for the proposition that out of the 7 substances, the one quality that distinguishes Prithvi from all the other is its order. Gandha, Tatra Gandhavati Prithvi. From Anapatta days we have been studying this. Even though the other substances also have smell in them, it is basically because of mixture of that substance with Prithvi that it gets in the smell, and thus telling that smell is unique to Prithvi and Prithvi alone. Now, in the modern science, a name has been coined to this particular smell that we usually can smell during rains. The distinct scent that lingers in the air after a storm is known as petrichor. Petrichor gets its name from the Greek word for rain. A naturally occurring organic compound called geosmin is responsible for the majority of this order. You can find geosmin in places with moist soil. Today we can feel it, which is the result of the mixing of chemicals that have been built on surface during dry seasons and the discharge of oils from plants. During dry seasons, these chemicals build up on surfaces. These compounds tend to accumulate on surfaces during the drier seasons. So, no, please come back. Yeah, here the physics people, they have given their formula for this one. So, their structure of geosmin has been told that it will be 12 components of carbon and then 22 components of hydrogen and 1 component of oxygen. This is how they have explained this geosmin. Now, not only that, but there are also other scents that we are capable of smelling, such as the perfume of newly cut grass. This scent is created by the release of chemical components such as volatiles from the green leaves of the grass. There is a wide range of scents that can be created by soil, from the smell of freshly churned dirt, which has an earthy fragrance, to the smell of moist soil, which has its own unique smell. These scents can be distinguished from one another in a number of different ways. Natural decomposition process can sometimes result in odors that are least appetizing, in particular in cases with rotting leaves, fruit that has fallen to the ground, or animal excrement. This is especially true in areas where these things are present. It is possible that surroundings like these could likewise produce flavor that are unpleasant. Hence, what I would like to convey from this area of Gandhavati Prithvi is that we can find parallels in both physics and Nyaya Shastra with regards to this smell. Number one. Now, the second point is go ahead next. We all are aware of water cycle. So, what is the significance of water with regards to water cycle with regards to Kanana in those days? What has he told about this one? He has given a list of sutras. Okay. Everybody must be aware of water cycle. Usually the circulation of water around the planet and through the atmosphere is depicted by a cycle called water cycle. It is a convoluted system that involves a wide variety of distinct procedures. Evaporation of liquid water results in the formation of water vapor, which then condenses into clouds and eventually falls to earth as precipitation in the form of rain and snow. The movement of water in its many places through the atmosphere is referred to as transportation. Runoff is the movement of liquid water across land, infiltration and percolation into the ground, and groundwater is the movement of groundwater through the ground. The process through which plants take in groundwater is known as plant absorption. The idea of water cycle was grasped in full comprehension by Kanada. The following sutras offer evidence in support the assertion. Apam sanyoga bhave gurutvat patanam, dravatvat syandaram, nadyo vayu sanyoga arohanam, nodana pīdanāt sanyukta sanyogacha, vrikshabhisarpanam ityadrishtakarikam. And then the last sutra is Apam sandhato videkancha tejas sanyoga. In the first 4 sutras listed above, Kanada lays out the full water cycle for the reader. According to him, gravity pulls the water droplets that are suspended in the clouds back down to the surface of the earth. This process takes place when the cloud is not in direct contact with the droplets. Additionally, the water droplets that have descended from the cloud and landed on the ground are connected by various bodies of water. Because the fluidity of these water bodies, which contain water, allows them to move from one location to another, they can be said to flow. In the later part of the day, the sun's rays cause the water in these bodies of water to rise, which is made possible by the convergence of air. Evaporation is the current name given to this process. Not only this, but Kanada also discusses the transportation of this water in the plants in the 5th sutra that was discussed before. In this sutra, he makes it abundantly apparent that the water that is present in the soil is absorbed by the roots of the plant, and that the water is then circulated above the plant by adrishta, he says. We now know that a certain tissue in plants called xylem contributes to the movement of water through the plant. It's possible that Kanada, when he mentioned Adrishta, he was referring to the xylem tissues of the plant, which are invisible to the naked eye. In a later part of the last sutra that was discussed, Kanada also discusses the condensation and dissolution of water as a result of connection with fire. This sutra essentially elaborates on the idea that the sutra is Aham Sanghato Videyancha Tejas Sanyoga. This sutra essentially elaborates on the idea that energy is necessary for either the condensation or the breakdown of water. In the modern world, everyone is well aware that any steam, once it has been cooled, can condense into water if there is energy. In addition to this, we are aware that in the process of electrical energy, water may be broken down into its component parts, hydrogen and oxygen. This not only demonstrates that Kanada was aware of the process of condensation and decomposition, but it also shows that he was aware of the fact that water can exist in all three forms of matter. So this is about Jala. Now I would like to throw some light on Tejas. Here, yes, one for Vayu. I would like to throw some light on Vayu. Even though the majority of air is gas, it does include a significant amount of very small particles. Aerosols are the name given to these particles that can be found in the air. When the wind blows, certain aerosols such as dust and pollen are swept up naturally by the wind. The ability to breathe essentially not only to humans but also to a wide variety of other species and even plants. So respiration is a process that includes breathing as one of its components. Now, let us explore the following points in order to investigate the similarities between air and Vayu as described by Kanada. One of Kanada's sutras states, Naja Drishtanam Sparisha is Janishtalingo Vayu. This means that Vayu has the invisible touch as the quality associated with it. So when it comes to the Lakshana, everybody is aware that Rupa Eva Sparshaman Vayu. Sparshaman Vayu, easy. We know that air is invincible, as we cannot see. But Kanada tells that it is invisible due to some qualities associated with that. Because of advances in scientific research, we are now aware of the following reason why air appears transparent. The majority of the gases that make up air are nitrogen 78% and oxygen 21%, along with the trace amounts of argon, carbon dioxide, water vapor, and other molecules. Nitrogen makes up the majority of air we breathe. These gases are composed of molecules that are simply far too small and dispersed to be able to scatter light in the same manner as larger particles that are packed more densely. So, what we would like to understand from here is that despite the fact that Kanada didn't have the opportunity to access the new age, the methodology present, but still he was able to understand the phenomenon which is present with regards to Vayu. And then I would like to move ahead with the next point. So I will just give you more references. So please move ahead with this slide. I am not going to discuss too much. This is one more reference. Come back, sir, please. Yeah. So when it comes to dip, also he has expressed many things here. So I will just put a few points here. Kanada sometimes even uses the word Isha in the alternative of the word dip. He has quoted about the different directions, its attributes, and how to identify them as follows. Ita idamiti yataha tatishyam yudam. He says, and then Arya Visheshena Nanakam. So I am just skipping these things due to the shortage of time, and then the chairperson has also informed me to kindly wind up at the earliest. So I am taking this opportunity. And actually, I have got a few more things to present to you. So please go ahead to the next slide. So this is with regards to the Sankhya, which is of numbers. Nowadays, we have got so many integers and all the different types of numbers which are present in the modern world. And I have written what is present in another sutra. So next one is Prayatna. This is a very fascinating thing. If I would like to go next slide. Yeah, this is Samskara. Vekaha Bhavana Sthivastana Vajjati. Regarding that one, also here we have just tried to portray. Please go ahead, sir. I would like to elaborate about Newton's law. Okay. What we can find some references to Newton's law in Vaisheshika Sutra. Okay, Prashasthapada gives a reference to Newton's law here. How means I would just like to brief it about it. 1 minute, sir. Yeah. So he says motion. Both the Vaisheshika Sutras and contemporary science share a great number of parallels and similarities. He says motion and the various forms it may take are discussed in detail in chapter 5 of Vaisheshika Sutra. The first 6 sutras in their most basic form provide us with an indication of Newton's third law. The following are the 5 sutras. Atma Sanyoga Prayatnabhyam Haste Karma Tatha Hasta Sanyogacha Musale Karma Abhidhataje Musalado Karmani Vyatireka Dakaranam Hasta Sanyoga Tatha Sanyogo Hasta Karmani Abhidhatam Musala Sanyoga Haste Karma Atma Karma Hasta Sanyogacha. So, in the first 4 sutras, an action or karma is described by referring to the act of throwing a stone with one's hand as example. According to the first sutra, there is no way for there to be any movement in the hand unless there is an effort that originates in the self first. The motion of the stone is explained in the following sutra. So, and then the Newton's third law, we all are aware, for every action there is an equal and opposition reaction, which could be referred in the 5th sutra. Plus, 6th sutra explains us now that motion in the hand also creates motion in the self. The same way as motion in the stone generated a reaction of motion in the hand when it moved. So, too does motion in the hand cause motion in the self. So, you just run through the slides here. So these are the 7 padarthas where we can find many similarities or parallels with regards to modern science. So whatever the sutra I have told, here I have just shown the examples. Chairpersons and you could also have a look up that one. See, the Newton's law is presented. First law of motion and inertia is being presented in this one. When the train starts moving, we can see that friction. In us also, at that time, there will be a slight jump sort of thing in us. So that we will also be, that motion will be there. We will be having a jet at that time. So he says that, and then the next thing. So this one is the force, speed, acceleration, and finally an implication towards Newton's second law of motion. Prayatna Vishesha, Nodana Vishesha, Nodana Vishesha, Dodasana Vishesha. So here it says that F is equal to ma. F means force, F is the mass of the body, and A is acceleration of the body. Please run through the next slide, sir. And then I have just given a list of the sutras and then the examples in the right side of the slide. Please. So, and then the concept of field forces are also to be discussed here, but I would just like to stop here so that we are running out of time and then we have got 2 more speakers to speak regarding. I would like to wholeheartedly thank the organizers for the opportunity given to me to present in this international seminar. I convey my regards to the Honorable Vice Chancellor for giving me an opportunity and the organizers for giving me an opportunity, and then the listeners also. I would like to they say, we have got Vaktas, but Shrotas are the one who are more important. Anyway, the Adhyaksha will be listening. My other speakers And I would like to just credit one of my friends. I am not a proper physics student, right? Even though I studied till 10th physics, but my friend, namely Dr. B.S. Achyuta, he was the one who helped me with regards to this one. Physics concepts and all were conveyed by him. So I would like to credit Dr. B.S. Achyuta for